Hey everybody, this is Fool by Javi. This is your host, Javi, obviously. I'm here with my guest today is George. Funny enough, this is my coach as well. So today we're just gonna talk about Arsenal and some Premier League things now that the Premier League starting this Friday. And it's gonna be an exciting season. So yeah, coach, whenever you want to get introduction for yourself.
Yeah, my name is George. Like have you said, I'm heavily involved in like soccer in New York City. Coach for well over 10 years now, boys and girls and men's. So I kind of had the full spectrum or range of players that I've worked with. I've enjoyed each and every one of them. You know, each stage, each team, each age group is a different experience, and that's what it's all about, right? Enjoying the experience as a coach with your players. So yeah.
For sure. So today, obviously, like I said earlier, we're gonna talk about Arsenal. That's your favorite, one of your favorite teams. Is that your main team or is it Bayern?
Yeah, Arsenal is definitely my main team. Like I said, I grew up. I'm a product of the '90s, of the Wenger era.
Okay.
Arsenal, like I said, I always have a soft spot for Bayern Munich because I grew up in. I was born in Ghana, and one of my favorite players my favorite player ever is Samuel Kuffour. And he was a center back in Munich in the '90s. And so I remember as a kid, you know, my first introduction to soccer, which is every Bayern game, was on TV, right? So I'm a big fan of the German league, the Bundesliga. So we had a lot of some of Ghana's best players growing up played in Germany, so it was always on TV. So I grew up with a affect. You know, I had an affection for Bayern Munich and German football, and that's remained to this day.
So so I have my own podcast. Well, of course, I listen to other people's podcasts. Obviously, you know he used to be a striker for Arsenal. Righty. Oh,
Ian
he's
Wright,
some
Ian Wright.
Ian Wright right there. Ian Wright. He has his own podcast. I don't know if you know about it. And with the Ringer FC, and so he said like, of course, he's a little biased because he's obviously an Arsenal fan, but like he says that he went to a training session with one of his colleagues, and he saw Arsenal train like before they went to the US tour, right? And they said that Arsenal like was very like the intensity was there, like everybody was like exceptionally like playing very well and like, in a way where like they're competing against each other, and it's like 100%, and it's like how you as a fan outside the UK, like right now, like how do you see your perspective on Arsenal at the end of last season to like now? Like what's the expectation that your perspective and things?
Well, I think you know, as a fan, and you know, I'm not what I call them the keyboard fans, the fans who just sit behind the keyboard just
Mhm.
complaining about every little
Yeah.
thing after every little game, or like you know, like AFTV. You
Yeah.
know that you know they clearly in there for entertainment purposes. I don't think they're in there for like true
Yeah.
analysis. So I think I don't waste my time engaging in those kinds of things because I think it's not time well spent. You know, I was lucky last year to actually go to London to watch them play. And I saw them play Chelsea in the early second game of the season. And we lost 2-0. The game was over early, like the first 10 minutes. It was 2-0 Chelsea. And, you know, just from the lineup and the way Arsenal were at that time, you knew
Mm.
the game was over at then, right? But the consensus I got, and you know, this was always important. I think like if you can afford it or if time permits, it's important for you to actually go and talk to the actual game day, match day going crowd because they're the real fans, right? Like they're the
Yeah, for
ones
sure.
who they live there, they you know they go to the game, they invest their time and their money into going there. And the consensus I got was, hey, the team that you're going to see is not Arteta's team, right? And I think at the time they had like COVID injuries.
Yeah.
I remember the lineup from that day. From that lineup, I think there's only like three players who are still left at the club or who are still like part of
Yeah, I
the
mean,
first team,
Odegaard
right?
was still not part of that team at that day,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
At
So
that
Tomiyasu wasn't there. Ben White didn't play that game.
he was
Gabriel wasn't
injured.
back. Thomas Partey wasn't there. So you know it was
You also
very.
gotta understand that summer was the Euros and the Copa America as well, so a lot of players came out late.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it was just like a weird team that they put out, and you know Chelsea were full strength. They just won, you know, the Champions League, and they
Yeah,
just looked, you know, it was just men against boys. Literally, that's what it
yeah,
was, right? So, but you know, the consensus was this is not Arsenal's best 11, and therefore you can't read too much into it because you're playing the champions of Europe, right? Which
yeah,
what amounted to your B team. So you
yeah.
know, I
Of
think
course.
the expectation wasn't high, you know, and I think that's what's important to always go there, listen to the fans, see what their perspective is, and then you know that also gives you a different perspective on how you see the team. So I think last year we were super disappointed. We everybody kept saying Arsenal was ahead of schedule, right? I think when Arteta took over, the plan was to be in the Champions League within 2 years. But I think last year was like his first full year.
Yeah.
With COVID, the fans back in the stadium, and the biggest challenge he faced when he came as a coach was he had a lot of players that weren't very good.
Yeah.
Let's
And
call it
they
what it
didn't want to
is.
be there either.
And they didn't want to be there. They weren't very good, and it was just a bad combination. It was a team that wasn't very finely balanced, and I think they didn't fit the mold in which I thought they wanted to play. And so, I think with Edu, who's the sporting director for Arsenal, they just came up with a strategy like, hey, we've tried the old way of signing um, proven internationals on high wages, and that didn't work. So we got to find a new strategy, right?
Yeah.
So this strategy was pretty simple, and I think it became evident clearly on last summer with the transfer dealings. We're gonna go for players who fit a certain mold: young, under 23, hungry, unproven, and that's the route we want to go. And I think last year anybody, I don't care what fan base you support, you could see that they did well in the transfer market with the players that they brought in. Every player that they brought in improved the squad. And the point of a transfer window, right? The players that you're bringing in, are they going to make the team better? And they did. We rose 3 places up the table from 8th to 5th. We only missed out on Champions League by like 2 points, right? And
Yeah.
truth
Maybe
be
2 games. Yeah.
yeah, truth be told, like we
From the
kind
one
of
game.
we had the Champions League, birth in our hand. We just kind of blew it away, and that's part of their education as young players, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't handle the pressure when the pressure was on, right? And that's what you have. You have the youngest team in the Premier League, so that was to be expected. But I think they were disappointment. But I think the goal for this year is that the kids, the disappointment of last season is almost
Yeah.
kind of
I
like
was just gonna set
is
that.
going to
Yeah.
motivate them to say, hey, we know we could be a Champions League team, and now we have. You look at it, you have the missing piece, which is the striker and Gabriel Jesus. So if Jesus could deliver the goals, Arsenal's the top 4 team this year, easily.
So you said a couple of things, and then it's crazy how like you could connect things from different people, like just in general, like us human beings. Like you said something that other people say similar. Like you said, like the fans from the stadium, like the real fans, like they think different of people over here or people in Twitter, like you said, the keyboard people. Like Ian said, obviously he was like he feels like this is the first year that Arteta has his own team that he wants. That this is his team now, you know.
It's his team now. Yep, definitely.
And you said like with the heartbreak of last year, so he interviewed Martinelli, right? And you could see Martinelli going saying like, I think last year was like a lesson for us. And then
Definitely.
because it was like it was more of a disappointment, not to us, but to everybody that supports them, because
Yeah,
like
to the
they
fans.
were
Yeah, to the
like
fans.
with 3 weeks, and then you could correct me if I'm wrong. 3 weeks, there was three match weeks left, right?
Three
And then there
match
was some
weeks left.
fourth,
Yeah,
and there was some fourth, and
yeah,
Spurs was fifth or sixth, and then that's what the
yeah.
last 3 games. That's what they messed up, and then Spurs went over. So just seeing that, it's just you could understand how the perspective from different fan base, like you said, like from the stadiums to like you or like to other people's like in the world, it's like the perspectives are very different, and it's like now like you could see like now like Arsenal is like back in it. Like I have them like making time forward this year. Like I have like I believe like well that's for a different episode for the on Thursday, but I have them like I haven't like being really strong this season, like really strong. Like even like as a Liverpool fan, like I'm a little afraid because like last year they gave us competition like for a certain amount of minutes, not the long length, but I think not this
The
year.
games are more competitive,
Yeah,
right? The
the
score
games
lines didn't
will get
reflect
more
the game,
competitive.
and the score lines didn't reflect the
And,
game. I think the first game at Anfield finished 4-0, but it was only like Liverpool
yeah,
scored all the goals and bunches. And then the second leg at the Emirates, I mean, Arsenal just killed
it was
Liverpool. Liverpool
it,
just
yeah, it was just
scored the 2 goals,
mistakes.
and
It was
mistakes, yeah,
mistakes too. Because
and that's football at the highest level, right? Like you
I
make
forgot
a
who made the
mistake, a team
mistake.
like Liverpool
Yep,
is gonna punish you, right?
and dominate them.
And but that's football. You're going against a Liverpool team that has won everything in the past
Yeah,
3-4 years, right? Against what amounts to a rookie team. You can't make little silly mistakes and expect to get away with
yeah,
it.
and that's that they're young. So let's talk about this summer. I think this summer transfer window in general has been great. I feel for like every club. I think like every transfer that I know on top of my head has benefited each club. Of course, we're just saying as names. We're
Well,
gonna
that's
see
the
the
point of transfers,
performance.
right?
Yeah,
It's supposed to improve the team, right?
yeah, but
So
like there's some transfer where it's like you didn't have to go there. Like
Yeah, I
he
agree.
could
I
have gone to a
agree.
different place.
I agree.
Like this season, like I feel like every transfer that I could get on top of my hair is a transfer that would benefit a team. But of course, that's just the like the perspective of the eye. Not the performance is gonna come when the season starts next week. But with the summer transfer window, I think Arsenal, I mean Spurs, I think are the winners of the transfer window because it made a lot of business. But I think Arsenal is on top of it, with Gabriel Jesus, with Sinchenko. This is not really a transfer window, but keeping Saliba, I think Saliba is a big addition to the defense because now you don't have Holding coming in. You have Saliba, who's proven to be a top player in the French league and the Europa League, and now joining into this young team, I think is
He's
really
also on the
good.
French team now. He's on the French international as well.
Yeah,
So
so he's legit. Like I think like that's my favorite. Like I always liked him. I don't know. I never knew like the behind the scenes or whatever happened, but I really liked him always. So how you think your off-season activities slash business compared to the other six big clubs like Man City, Liverpool, and things like what's your perspective on that?
well, I think the idea that Spurs has done good business, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Arsenal fan, but I think people put us Spurs like the best of the rest. I think that's the quote that they've been using. Everybody knows Liverpool and City are like daylight, the head of everybody
Yeah.
else, right? Then who's the best of the rest, right? And I think the consensus right now is Spurs. But a lot of people are saying it's Spurs because of the business they've done, because they have the better
Yeah.
coach in Antonio Conte, right? Because
Yeah.
you have a coach who's won the Premier League before, who's won Serie A, right? Like he's a winner, so they say.
He's proven to be
He's
legit.
he's proven to be a winner, especially when it comes to winning
Yeah.
league titles, right? So his record in Europe, we rather not get into. But
Yeah. He's
so so
his Champions League record is
so
so bad.
yeah, so I think that's what gives Spurs the advantage, right? But I think as an Arsenal fan, I don't think any Arsenal fan is looking at like, oh, we're looking over there to see what they're doing in the other side of North London. We're looking at, okay, what are we doing to improve ourselves, right?
I agree
People
with
forget
that.
they only finished ahead of us by 2 points, and there's
Yeah.
more we blowing it, not them winning it, right? So it's
Yeah,
kind
for
of like
sure.
it's kind of like people forget that, and they've improved, but so have we. And I think the business that we've done this summer has just been. I mean, I think we still got a few more deals left in us. So, the biggest monkey in the room was the biggest elephant in the room, I should say, not monkey, was getting a striker. We
Done
got Gabriel
deal.
Jesus, right? Like done
Do you
deal.
I
That's
got a question
that.
though. Do you have any doubts with Gabriel Jesus? Because there's
I
a
mean,
lot
he's
of
proven it
report.
already. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think he's proven it in preseason, but I mean, you're getting a proven Premier League player. Like in all
Yeah.
the big games for City, Jesus was there.
Yeah,
He
he's the
played and he
was the
performed and
yeah.
he scored, right?
I
And
mean
then
with
you put
Real
him on a
Madrid.
team that like I said, is they're young, so he fits the bill. He's 25,
He
right?
has
His work
experience.
ethic, and I read an article in the Athletic, which I think was
Mm.
very good reading, and they made the idea that the whole premise of the article is who's not just with his he's coming as a winner, right? Because he's won at
Mm-hmm.
City, right? But it just the way he approaches the game, his enthusiasm. Like when he loses the ball, his first instinct, I've got to win the ball back. His
Yeah.
running, his pressing. And it's kind of like lifted everybody's game. And I think in preseason you can see that. Like the mood, even like I was watching them on the weekend against Sevilla and the way they were
No,
pressing,
that's
hurrying
ridiculous.
everybody down.
He
Like
scored
it's
four
like
goals in 20
I've never
minutes.
seen that. Yeah. But again, it comes down to the argument being that okay, Arteta has his team now. This is the kind of football he wants to play. So now the jury could really be out on Arteta, right? Because now you have your team. You have no more excuses. You can't hide behind, Bamian like it's somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Everybody on this squad, more or less, you sign.
Yep.
So now it's your team, right? I think the only person you could argue in the first team that he then signs Martinelli and Tierney, right? Saka and Smith Rowe
But
obviously
wait,
were
Tierney came
academy
out when
graduates.
he was in.
No, we signed Tierney the window with Unai Emery. I
Oh,
remember that
okay.
window. Him and we signed
But
him
I
and
feel like
Saliba the same year.
but he's been great though. I mean, of course, injury.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
injury prone, but
so,
like when
but
he's
I'm just saying, like,
playing, he's been
yeah,
legit. Yeah.
he's a fantastic player. But I'm just saying, more or less, Ateta would say everybody else he signed, with the exception of him and
Okay. Of course.
Martinelli,
Yeah.
right? In regards to the teams that the play and Shaka, right? In terms
Yeah.
of the players that will play like game out, right? More or less,
Yep.
everybody else is your player or an academy graduate. So
Yeah.
you got to hold your hands up and do that.
So you said earlier in the pod that you believe that there's more business to be done.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Like what you
Well,
think
I
you
mean, it's
guys need to
business to
which
be
first
done.
move
We
would.
need reinforcements in midfield because I think you lose Thomas Partey, you don't have a like for like. And if you watch the way
Yeah.
Arsenal play, everything starts with him. And we saw that towards the end of the
Yeah.
last
When he
year
got injured, yeah.
when he got injured, we lost him and Tierney at the same time. And Tierney and Partey, if you watch how Arsenal play, it's a big part of how we play. So you lose two players of that caliber, you don't have like for like replacements. And I think they're part of the big reasons why we didn't make top four. We only needed one win to get in the top four. We couldn't
Yep.
get that. And I think that was a big part of it.
For your
So I
ideal
think
lineup,
it's business to be I think it's to be done in midfield.
midfield.
And I think Arsenal still needs another winger. They're still looking for a wide player.
Do you believe that they need a right back also?
Um,
Tomiyasu
it,
has
it,
he's also being like injury. I mean, he's also one
injury, yeah,
season, but
he's injury prone, but like I said, when he plays, he's fantastic. That's
yeah,
fine. But I think defense really is not a position where I'm too stressed out about. Like we have priorities elsewhere, and I think if you ask any Arsenal fan what the priorities are, it's center midfield because we need another Partey and
yeah.
we need another wide player. That's
You
just the way
you
it is.
like
Because
being.
in defense, we could compensate for defense, right? Because Brown White's been playing a lot of
I was gonna ask that
preseason
because
as a right back,
he
and we
hasn't looked
have
bad either. He's been
yeah,
good.
yes. I mean, he's a good player. People forget. I think 1 year he spent on loan at Leeds. He was like the defensive
Yeah,
midfielder. He was the
ridiculous.
player of
Yeah,
the year, right? So he's a footballer. So I think you don't lose nothing. Obviously, he's not the long term answer. Tomiyasu is your first choice,
yeah.
but the fact that he could come in and do the job, and you have Cedric. You forget he's a Portuguese international who won the Euros, right? So in terms of
They criticize him too much though.
yeah, but
I
he's a
like how
backup.
his
So
effort.
that's why. Yeah, but he's a backup.
Yeah,
You can't expect. He's
nah,
like a substitute teacher, right? You can't expect him to
yeah.
do what the main teacher does. It's ridiculous. That's why he's a backup.
So the team how it is right now. What's your ideal lineup to start in Crystal Palace this weekend?
I mean, Tomiyasu and Tierney won't be ready. I don't think they'll
Mm-hmm.
be fit enough because they haven't played much or they haven't played at all. So I think the same team we saw against Sevilla is going to be the same lineup we see
So
on
it's
Friday night.
Ramsdale,
So it's
Ben,
Ramsdale and goal, Ben
Saliba.
White at right back, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko at left back, Shaka and Pate. I think that's a very they bring out the best in each other, right?
Yeah, I
Odegaard,
think they are
Buffy,
like
Saka, Martinelli.
they're like the weakness of Tony Partey is the strength of Shaka. That's what I believe. Like I think like they
Yeah,
both like match pretty well.
they balance each other out. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why it's important that we keep Pate fit and we keep Shaka on the field, right?
So
It's a matter of that.
so part of the fact that you guys signed Zinchenko was for his the way that he could play multiple positions. If Tierney is fit, do you put him over Zinchenko or do you play Zinchenko in the
Nah,
midfield?
Cheney's is our first choice left back. I mean,
Okay.
that's no debate there. I think what Arteta one is again, the biggest problem we had last year was when the injuries happened. We didn't have
Yeah.
quality and depth. And now, when you sign somebody like Zinchenko, he gives you quality and depth, not just in defense, but in midfield as well. Because if you see him play for Ukraine, he's fantastic in
Yeah,
midfield,
he's
right? Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So he's
Like
fantastic
he's
in
been
midfield.
I watched the qualifiers. I mean, it didn't make it to a World Cup, but I watched the Wales Ukraine game. It's like
Yeah.
he was everywhere. Like I don't
Yeah,
understand
I
it.
mean,
He's a box to box midfielder, right? Like he's crazy. He could also play left wing too. He played left
yeah,
wing a
but
few
he
times
that's
for
what I
Man
mean.
City.
That's why we wanted a left
Yeah,
footed versatile player, and he ticked the box. So why not? And for
mm,
35 million, I think it's
that
good
was
business.
really
Yeah, it's
shit.
good
Yeah.
business. Yeah, it's good business.
So like you said, like for the rest of the champion winner, you said you believe that they need more reinforcement in the midfielder, right?
They will do business. There's no doubt about
Yeah.
it. They will do more business.
Who will be one player that you put the name out there?
Tillemans from Leicester
Tell
City. No, the
Oh
thing that's
wow.
like, I still can't believe we haven't put that trigger. He's
Yeah.
in the last of his contract. 30 million could get the job done. He wants to come to Arsenal. He's proven in the Premier League. I mean,
Yeah.
he ticks every box. And like I said, obviously, I talk with a lot of Arsenal fans, and even the consensus, like everybody just agrees, like Tielemans is with that depth that we talk about, the quality and depth. He will give us that. He's a better player than Elneny. And at this given moment, he's a better player than Sambi Lokonga, right? So
Yeah, obviously.
he's gonna give us that quality and depth. Because Shaka and Partey is not gonna give you 38 games over the course of the season. Injury and suspensions just don't allow for that.
Will you put him over Shaka?
Yes,
Okay. So if they make the sign, it will be Tillemans and Party
and yeah, that gives
and
you a
Shaka
very
coming up to mid.
strong.
Okay.
Yeah, that gives you a very strong, formidable, athletic, midfield. I think
Okay.
Shaka, what he lacks is a lot of times, and you see it in why he's so reckless with his challenges. So he just lacks space. He's not very athletic. He's clean on the ball. He has a sense of the game, his passing, but when it comes to a foot race and just being
Doesn't
athletic,
have
he
it.
just doesn't have it. And that's his game.
Yeah.
That's his limitations. But Tielemans, I think, kind of tick that box. Especially if you want to play a high press and high tempo game. When you look at some of the midfielders, not just in the Premier League, but the rest of the continent in Europe, like you need that. You just can't have Partey be the only one.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For your top three though, for your attacking, you pick Jesus, Saka, and Martinelli.
Yeah,
So Smith Rowe coming off the bench.
coming off the bench. Yeah, I think Smith Rowe. He's been injury prone
Yeah.
this preseason, so he hasn't played much. So that's one. So I don't think he'll be ready for Palace either way. And even if he is, I don't think he's fit enough to start. And I think last year a lot of his goals came off the bench. People forget that, right? But again, you want to prefer starting 11, but that's not ideal, right? Injuries is gonna happen. We're also in Europe this year, so that's a lot of games. So there's a lot of games to go around for everybody. So Smith Rowe is also adaptable. He can play on the left. He can play in
Yeah, he can play
midfield. So
everywhere.
you need a squad, and I think that's what we have. We finally have a squad with that quality. So if he comes off the bench, you're not missing much because he's still going to offer a goal threat and assist threat. So it doesn't matter whether he starts or not. Last year, I think it was him and Martinelli. They just kept switching in and out every game, right?
Yeah.
So we don't lose nothing, but I think on form and based on what we've seen in preseason, Martinelli deserves a spot on the left. I don't.
Oh yeah,
Smith will be the
he
first
does.
one to tell you that. Yeah.
And I think he's one of my favorite players because I like the type of players who like really attack. Like he gets the ball, he runs into like the
Who,
defenders.
Martinelli?
Martinelli and Smith Rowe. Like Smith Rowe also
Yeah.
like goes and like, he brings a pace. It's like this might be a weird analogy. It's like a Russell Westbrook, but for Arsenal, like he brings the speed, like he brings the pace for the team to go up.
Yeah.
Like both of them, so like they're very similar in some ways. Like I think Martinelli's more like of a scorer, and then Smith Rowe is like more like of a backup for Odegaard. I think as a cam. I don't know about the wingers though. Like every time he plays in the wingers, like I don't really see him like pushing the pace. I think when he plays in the winger, the pace is really pushing. He just gotta continue. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, he's a natural cam, right? So he's
Yeah.
a natural central attacking midfielder. But again, Odegaard is a captain now, so you can't really sit him. He has to play every game. So not a
I still
player,
can't believe Real Madrid let him go like that.
not play every game, but he has to be able to play most games, right? So
Yeah.
that means what the Smith Rowe play, and people forget Smith Rowe got most of his goals coming off the wing. I
Mm.
mean, so it's game. So I think it's fine. Like I said, the
Yeah.
biggest problem is quality and depth, and we didn't have that last year towards the stretch, and that's what cost us a Champions League berth. And I think that's one of the areas that they're seeing like, hey, okay, we went young the previous one though. Now we need proven quality to get us over the hump.
Oh, good quality and young as well, because Zinchenko is
Yeah, I mean,
young as
Zinchenko
well.
was like what, 20, 26,
24.
27?
No,
Yeah,
I
like,
think
yeah,
25. Yeah, 24.
yeah, so he fits the mold. Him, Gabriel Jesus, mid-20s,
And
hungry,
they have a lot
and
of experience. Like people don't
and people
understand
also
that.
forgot we also bought Vieira from Porto, right? We
Oh
haven't
yeah,
even seen him
right,
yet, and we
right.
also bought Marquinhos from Brazil, who we haven't seen a lot of as well. So I think with Marquinhos and Vieira, they're more for the future,
Yeah.
because similar to when we bought Martinelli, nobody knew who he was, right? We bought him from a second division club in Brazil, and now he's at number 11, starting on. I expect him to be in the lineup until barring injury. He's going to play against
Yeah.
Palace on Friday, right? So it's good scouting, good bringing good young hungry players who want to play for the club and want to do well. So I've seen Vieira. I've seen a few games of his, full games. I didn't pay much attention to him. At Porto,
Yeah.
the odd
He
European game, but he
he
looks the
played
part, right?
Liverpool faced Porto last season in
Yes,
the Champions League, and he's done pretty good. I try to watch all the games from Liverpool, and I remember him,
yeah.
and he's a jet, like he's a
He's
jet.
a good player. Yeah,
And
he's
he's
a good
also the
player.
captain of the EU 23s of the
23s. Okay, of Portugal. Yeah.
Portugal. So and then that team is also pretty good as well. So what's your bold prediction for next year though? You guys have of course the domestic cup, which is the FA Cup, the
Yeah.
Carabao,
Top
the
four.
league,
We
Europa
finished
League.
top four in the league. We finished top four in the
Oh,
Premier
who's top
League.
four?
City, Liverpool, Spurs. As of now, Spurs, Arsenal.
Okay, so we have the same. Okay, cool. And then you think you're taking the Europa League?
I mean, Europa League is just one of those things. I think early on nobody ever takes it serious. So
Yeah.
you would see like Rob Holdings, Sambi Lakonga, Reese Nelson. Those guys who play in the early games when we travel to like you know Belarus or Estonia, somewhere far, far away in Europe.
Yeah.
I think teams like Arsenal only start to take it serious once they know there's a chance they could win it, or there's a chance they won't qualify for the Champions League domestically. Then it
Yeah.
becomes a prize, right? So people forget, like if you win it, you play Champions League. So I think it depends where we are. Let's say come April, where we are on the league table, and priorities change and shift, right? So if we know like we off the pace in the Premier League and we're not going to get Champions League, Europa League becomes priority number one, and you see all the stars playing that game. But if not, I think Europa League. Every time that we've been in it the past, every time we've been in it, we always made the semifinal or the final. So
Yeah.
I don't
you
foresee anything
guys
less.
you guys lost to Chelsea, and then after following that
Yeah,
you
the
guys
last
went
time
to
we
the
were in it,
round.
we lost to Villarreal in the semifinal, right? So
The champions end up being who ended up beating
yeah, the eventual champions, yeah.
yeah. So you believe that you guys are that's my top four as well. Like my top, I think like Chelsea have
I think
failed
as of now,
to
because I think
as of now, yeah, because
as of
of
now,
how
because
Chelsea's looking.
things change, right?
Yeah,
Like you know, who knows? Chelsea could make 2, 3 signings that all of a sudden changes the
yeah,
conversation, and it's the same for United, right? They could make 2 or 3 signings that change the situation, right? So or Arsenal could be one bad injury. Let's say Jesus goes down, then Nketiah is going to be a main striker for the season, and that changes the mood, right? So football is a very, if is a fluid situation. It's always subject to change based on one event, and it could change just like that.
yeah. All right. So last segment, right? What's your overall Premier League landscape for the teams like to watch out for? Like obviously a part of the like last season. I'll give you an example: West Ham, Wolves. Like apart from the top six, the big clubs. Like you as the Arsenal fan, like why teams outside the big clubs that you'll see like, oh, you gotta be careful with this people, with these guys.
Well, I think Forest. I like what Forest is doing. On Forest, it just came up. I like their signings, but I
Yeah,
think the fear for them is they don't go the Fulham route. A few years ago, Fulham came up and they just started buying everybody. They bought Andre Schürrle, right? He's a World Cup winner, right? They bought Jean-Michel Seri. He was the most sought after defensive midfielder in Europe, and a bunch of signings, and they got relegated, right? So,
yeah,
I think at times when you come up the enthusiasm of wanting to stay up, get the fans excited, going for the blockbuster signing as they have with
just
Jesse Lingard. I
Lingard.
think they
Yeah,
bought Mangala from Stuttgart, who's he's a hell of a player. I follow the
mm-hmm.
Bundesliga, so I know he's value, and they brought some other players. So Forest is definitely doing good business, but you fear that the players that got you up, I think they're good enough to keep you up. And we lost to Forest in the FA Cup last year as also in the third round, so I know they have a quality team.
Their
And
fan
I
base
think
is really good too.
yeah, and I think it's like if you're a fan of football, the nostalgia, right? Like it's Nottingham Forest. People forget they 2 time Champions League winners, right? So to have them back in the big time, I think
Yeah.
is good for English football. So I think
Um,
Forest, obviously, I'm glad to see. I'll be happy to see them do well. Palace always, I think I'm interested to
I
see how
love
Palace does
Palace.
this year,
Yeah, with that
because
Gallagher.
they don't have Gallagher this year. That they haven't really made any signings that's kind of like wow, but I
But
think
Eze's
Vieira
back.
just yeah, that's what I mean. Vieira just counting on the place he has now to
Eze,
improve. Eze,
Olise.
Olise, Zaha, it is what it is at this point.
Yeah.
He bought Edouard last year. I
He
think when he
Chris
played, he looked good.
bought
Um,
Chris Richards
Chris
from
Richards,
Bayern.
yeah, for buying to be. So Palace is always going to be
Yeah,
tough, and I think Friday
last
night's game is going to be tough also, right? Like is Palace, like Palace is like a bogey team. I think we only beaten them once in like the past like 6, 7 attempts, right?
yeah,
So
and
um
Palace was literally one of my favorite teams last year because like they were really good. Like every game, like they seemed pretty. Like every game that I can remember, they seemed really good. I mean, last year you guys, I think tied. Remember that last
we
minute
tied them
goal?
2-2 at the Emirates, and then they
Yeah,
beat us 3-0
yeah,
at Selhurst Park.
yeah. And then I said Leeds. I think Leeds is one of the surprising teams because like first season of Jesse March. If he brings the results, and Harrison's really good. He looked really good in the preseason. Tyler Adams is really good. Of course, like you gotta see how you replace Calvin Phillips. But I think with Tyler Adams, it's a really good signing. They also signed that kid from the Bundesliga, Silliman, I think that's his name. He's Danish. So that's a really good signing. And then Benford finally is back for a full season, hopefully, with no
Yeah,
injuries. So I
hopefully he
think,
stays fit. Yeah,
yeah.
hopefully he
But I
stays fit.
think Jack Harrison is also really good. And CFC, he used to play there as well. And I think with Rodrigo, I mean, losing Rafinha is also huge. But I just think Rafinha was fighting for relegation last year, so he's really good, obviously. But I don't think like he will be missed as much as Colin Phillips will be missed. So I think Leeds for me. I think yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it remains same because I think the problem with Leeds is you lose two of your best players, but then again, like Phillips hardly played last year, so it's kind of like okay, and but again, that's part of the reason why they struggled. You don't lose a player of Phillips' caliber and ability and expect to do well when you don't have a like for like or quality in terms of replacement. And Rafinha, I'm a little bit iffy about because he's a great player, but
Yeah,
if you watch him play and it's like, is he that great to be commanding the feed that he did or the hype? I just don't think he is. So I think yeah, for a club like Leeds, they'll miss him. But I think like Arsenal made a bid for him. When we didn't get him, I was like, okay, is he better than Saka? No, I don't think he is.
yeah,
So what do we? He would just be a squad player, but you don't pay 60 minutes for a squad player, right? So,
yeah.
I think it is what it is.
Well, Coach, thank you for coming to the podcast to talk about Arsenal. Um, I'm gonna do a whole Premier League prediction Thursday with my uncle, another guest. So I want to know what's your relegate, like who you think will be relegated for next year. I got Everton, Fulham, and Southampton. I think it's like three teams that are probably gonna struggle this season because Everton has to haven't made no business. Southampton also look pretty. I mean, last season they really ended the season really bad. So, what you think? Who you think is gonna go to the championship next year?
Well, I think Everton will stay up. I think, I like the business they've done. They got James Tarkowski and McNeil from Burnley. I think they were two of Burnley's best players. Because sometimes you just need a defender who's going to defend, and
Mm-hmm.
Tarkowski is going to give you that, right? Like he's a fantastic defender.
Yeah.
McNeil is an excellent addition. They're close to getting Ghana back from
Oh yeah,
PSG.
gay.
So
Yeah,
I
gay.
think Gay is going to be a solid pickup, right? Improve that midfield automatically. The problem is where's the goal's going to come from, right? Especially
Yeah.
now that you don't have Richarlison, where's the goal's going to come from? So I think, I could guarantee you Lampard is still in the market for another striker. But I think if you look at the squad, a full season with Lampard in preseason, I think they'll be fine. I'm not worried about them. Southampton, I think they're going to be fine. Hudson Hudson is an excellent coach. He gets the
Mm-hmm.
best out of what he got. Every year he does, and I don't expect this year to be any
Yeah.
different. They're very formidable. I do expect I think Fulham will stay up this time because I think
Ooh.
Scott Parker is a better
Okay.
coach. Has been gone through what he went through the past few seasons. I know a few years ago they lost in the playoff championship to Brentford. And then last year they were just outright like
Yeah.
just lights out. And I think the lessons from a few years ago when they were last in the Premier League will serve them well. So it's hard for me to retell. Like I said, I fear for Forest. I think they've done good business, but just you don't know how these players are going to adapt to the Premier League,
Yeah.
right? The ones they bring in, the ones they bringing over, right? Yeah, I haven't really given much thought to the relegation table because remember, like nobody expected Everton to be in a relegation fight either, or Burnley to go down, right?
Yeah.
Or even Leeds United
To
to go down,
struggle.
or have Brentford be comfortable in mid-table, right? So it's
Yeah.
always one of those things, like one of those the big boys, one of the more established teams always get dragged down into a relegation battle. But if I'm being honest, I feel for Leeds. I think Leeds will struggle this year. I
Oh,
think they
okay.
will. I think, you don't lose two of your better players, and I don't think you replace them with good enough players. I don't think March is that good of a coach. Um, I'm just being frank. I just don't
No,
think
yeah,
he
for
is.
real.
He's a decent coach. I mean, he struggled at Leipzig, and he was saying, "Oh, it was the wrong fit, this and that." And then, Tedesco took over Leipzig, and they finished second, and they
Yeah.
won the German Cup. So it wasn't the players because the same coach got the same. He squeezed all the talent, and like I said, I'm a big Bundesliga fan. I watch
Yeah.
practically all the games in the Bundesliga, especially with the top teams. And Leipzig is on paper. That's not just on paper, but even just by watching them, they're a
They're really
fantastic
good.
side, right? Yeah. So I just don't think March is that good. And when you lose two of your better players,
Yeah.
it's going to be a struggle. I foresee them struggling, but I think they'll be fine. I haven't given much of the relegation, to be honest.
All right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming into the podcast today, especially in the weekdays when you're pretty busy. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no
So
problem.
thank you so much for being here, and yeah, will be an exciting episode to listen to. So thank you.